Hello everyone, we're coming out today with some real sauce here. Unchained Labrynth. Now this was sort of like a happy accident as I was laddering a little bit with Unchained. It was going pretty decently, but we thought, you know what, we're not seeing our monsters often enough. I wonder if I can fix that. And I got this idea. Well, Ariane can summon out any level 4 lower fiend from deck. You've got your trap cards, which are normally searchable. You're able to pop a bunch of cards. Why not finally make the jump and build the deck that I said that I was going to build, Labrynth Unchained? And you know what? I was really pleasantly surprised by this deck. I feel like there's still a little bit of optimization that needs to be done. Obviously, it's one of those decks where you're not going to win every single game, but you know what? We're able to go out here. We were clapping Mathmechs, we were beating Ignisters, we were beating other sort of top tier threats like that. Now, there were quite a few decks we were struggling with. So we're still building on it. Our most recent addition with things like Dimensional Barrier to help with the likes of Sword Souls and Branded, which were giving us a bit of hassle with their banishment of the Qing Ying and Mirror Jade and such. Again, we're going to talk more about the mechanics of the deck towards the end, but the idea basically is you want to be using things like your Ariane and your Ariana, your Welcome Labrynth, your Field Spell to turbo out some of your Labrynth plays, of course, as per usual. But where the synergy comes in is Ariane is able to send a normal trap from your hand or your field to the graveyard to grab any one of your fiends from deck. So that means any one of your Unchained twins, specifically Sarama. What you're going to want to be doing is, if it's possible, you want to pitch one of your Unchained trap cards either for her effect or if there's one already in the graveyard from earlier in the duel. What you're going to be able to do is use her effect to grab Sarama directly from your deck. Sarama then is going to be able to reset that trap card to your field and then pop it. And all of the trap cards have an effect where once they're destroyed, you summon another Unchained monster from the deck. You're going to go into something like your Unchained Soul here, which you will then use to link off into your Unchained Soul of Rage. That's going to give you the ability to interrupt your opponent on their turn by linking off with their monsters. And your Unchained Soul of Rage, Abominable Unchained Soul, normally when it's sent to the graveyard by any means other than being destroyed, that's it, done, finito, finished. But this deck has a way of recycling back your fiend monsters constantly in the field spell. So honestly, there's quite a lot of synergy here. It is a deck that I'm looking forward to exploring more, but you know what? We had some really good replays, some really good wins, some really good losses. I wanted to show the deck off. I wanted to float the idea out to you guys as well, just so you know what we're working on the channel, in the Discord. So if you're interested in these sorts of off-brand builds, these off-meta strategies, as well as any of the other content that we do with our deck profiles, with our Pokemon content, Showdown, Unite, whatever it is, you name it, we do it. Again, feel free to subscribe if any of that tickles your fancy. We also do constant live streams. I believe you'll be seeing this video the day after one of our streams, potentially even the day before. We're going to be streaming a wee bit extra with the release of the new cards coming up. So if you want to be catching the streams and the videos, feel free to subscribe, like the video if you actually like what you're watching, and let's get into the gameplay. Alrighty, getting into the games here, we're going to open up with Pot of Extravagance. Pot of Extravagance, banishing 6 cards here to grab us Ariana as well as our Field Spell, which we're going to just immediately go into. We're going to grab our Welcome Labrynth, we're going to set, and pass. Now, does this look like the most sort of Unchained board or anything like that to you? Probably not, right? Well, just wait and see. We're going to see what we've got here. We're going to immediately, without hesitation, pop the circle. So that means he doesn't get his Sigma Search off of it. He doesn't get to do any fancy plays. We also now get to snipe a card out of his hand, as well as draw a card and special summon a fiend from our hand, which is pretty nice. So we're going to draw a card. We draw on the Sarama. We were running 2 Sarama at this point. We have since cut it down to 1. You only need 1. Situations like this are why. We're going to pop a card in his hand, which is fine. He does have the Equation. He tries bringing back the Circular. We're going to preemptively flip up our Call by the Grave. We're going to banish that circle. We don't want to be seeing it. We don't want to be dealing with it. That's one less search for our opponent and one less card in their graveyard. They're going to go Mathmech Subtraction. We're going to go Trap Trick here. Trap Trick now basically is going to give us the ability to set a trap from our deck, any trap of our choosing. We're going to go Ace Dragon's Prison here because it's amazing in this matchup. We're going to activate our Field Spell, which will summon out the Sarama to our field. We're going to flip up the Ace Dragon's Prison. Now, what's really cool about this is that with Rakia and Sarama in particular, Rakia can at any stage we want pop the Sarama and give us an additional interruption. Because what it can do is, yeah, our opponent immediately scoops it up here, right? They scoop it up. right before it goes to the final screen. This gives us an extra interruption because Rakia would be able to pop Sarama. Sarama, when destroyed, will summon out the Abominable Unchained Soul from your deck, which gives you a huge 3k body, and when it's summoned, it will also allow you to discard a card to pop another card on the field. So we had all of that, plus an extra interruption and a 3k body coming out during this turn. Our Ace Dragon's Prison, of course, banishing the Sigma and whatever cards he had. Honestly, completely brutal. Absolutely shutting down Tier 1 Mathmech with no hassle, no issue, no nothing. Doing it as if it was just a breeze. Easy as that. Let's get into game 2. Now, that's not to say every situation is quite so easy. We are once again going to open up Extravagance. I love this card. I always seem to open it. It's actually nuts. Even when I'm playing just pure Labrynth, I always seem to open it. We're going to go... sorry, I'm not commentating. Abomination's Prison allows us to grab any Unchained cards from deck to hand, so we're able to grab even a trap card here, like Escape of the Unchained. We're going to pitch Escape to summon Sarama. Sarama resets our Unchained, and then we immediately pop it again. That triggers its effect to summon out the Abominable Unchained Soul. This is the combo I talked about earlier. We link 2 off into the Unchained Soul of Rage. We set a couple of cards and pass. Now, what exactly does this board do? Well, we of course have the Call by the Grave. We have the Trap Trick. The Trap Trick then is going to be able to trigger off our field spell after grabbing. We can grab a Welcome Labyrinth, or we can grab anything else that removes a monster from the field. And our Unchained Soul of Rage will allow us to, during our opponent's turn, target one of their monsters, and we can conduct a link summon on their turn using their monster. It's like Masquerena, except even better, but it's specific to Dark. So absolutely brutal, so it is. We're going to go into main phase 1 here. Our opponent, unfortunately, they've got the Desires. They're going to banish 10 to draw 2. They've got the Cosmic Cyclone. They aren't going to get rid of our field spell, which is unfortunate. They are going to Vishuda, so we're up against Sword Soul here. I actually make a bit of a misplay in this video, and you're going to see it. We're going to immediately activate our Unchained Soul of Rage, link off with his Monk before he can activate Vishuda to bring out our Unchained Soul of Anguish. He's now going to summon Shifana, linking off into another Monk. This is where we make the misplay. So you think here, obviously, you use Call by the Grave, you target the Vishuda in the graveyard. Well, we fat-fingered it and we accidentally pressed Shifana. That's why we panic flip up the Trap Trick. We're like, crap, I can't let him use Vishuda's effect. I accidentally targeted the Shifana. So we had to set the Ace Dragon's Prison here immediately from deck. So a bit of an embarrassing play, but you know what? They happen. We're going to flip out the Ace Dragon's Prison, grabbing the Vishuda, banishing Vishuda and the Monk. Now this does leave us in a rather precarious situation. We're going to draw 1 and special summon the Rakia out to our field. They're going to go into the Ecclesia play here. They're going to bring out the Mo Yi. I don't believe they've normal summoned yet, which is of course very precarious in and of itself. We are going to activate our Rakia preemptively so we can grab back our Unchained Soul back to our hand. That means that if one of our cards get destroyed, we will have the ability to special summon this from our hand and get popping. So we still at least have some form of protection in the form of our Abominable Unchained Soul, but it's not looking too good for us. We did fat finger on the Shifana there. I was absolutely fuming when I made that mistake. We're going to summon 2 out and go into Cheng Ying. Now this card is a problem for this deck. First of all, 5100 attack and defense because there are so many banished cards on both sides. So he is absolutely humongous. But secondly, if we ever attempt to destroy this guy, he can simply protect himself by banishing a card from graveyard, and anytime a card is banished once per turn, he gets to banish a monster on field and in grave. So this guy is incredibly difficult because he completely subverts our destruction, both offensively and for ourselves. He prevents our own destruction effects. So he does swing in and destroy our Rakia. Rakia then, we're going to summon out Rua from our deck. Then Rua, whenever it's destroyed, is going to summon out our Abominable Unchained Soul. We're going to ditch the Needle Sealing to pop the Grandmaster. Needle Sealing does us no favors so long as that Cheng Ying is there. So getting rid of the Grandmaster is at least something. We draw into the Abomination's Prison, which is an okay card. We activate it. We grab Abominable Chamber of the Unchained. He is, during the end phase though, this is a problem. During the end phase, he goes blackout. Our plan was we were going to use the Chamber revive back our Link monster here. The Unchained Soul of Rage. Unchained Soul of Rage then link off with the Supreme Sovereign. That play can't happen anymore with the blackout here. The blackout then, he would attempt to destroy the Cheng Ying. Instead, he's going to banish a card to protect it. We're going to resummon our Abominable Unchained Soul out to the field. During the end of any turn in which he is destroyed, He can special summon himself back out to the field, but bear in mind he can only be special summoned once per turn, and that's all she wrote. Cheng Ying outright countering the deck, which is super unfortunate. There are ways of getting around it. More specifically, Ace Dragon's Prison is one of your biggest outs to this card. This Duel in particular is actually why we added D-Barrier to our deck. So we were going to try and preemptively stop them from even synchro summoning by using D-Barrier. Would have been really, really good for us on this occasion. But again, we just didn't have it. Now that we have it in the deck, we're going to be dealing with these types of strategies a little bit easier than we have been. It's all about the learning process. It's all about the learning curve. I don't want to throw a finished product at you guys and you not know how it got there, how it's played, and why we're playing the cards we're playing. I want you to understand the full journey of it so that when you look at the deck list, every single card makes sense, right? I want the deck list to make sense. Anyway, I'm not going to sit and ramble. Let's get into game number 3. Already getting into game 3 here. Pretty interesting hand. I know you keep on seeing Needle Sealing in this deck. Needle Sealing is so good. I love this card so much. It's just hilarious how a card this old that never really saw play when it first came out. Again, I wasn't playing competitively back then, so correct me if I'm wrong. But it's just funny that a deck like that just is now actually good in certain decks. We save our Ash Blossom for the Labrynth because we were sort of... our plan usually when we only have an Ash is let him grab the Super Factorial and hopefully we can just stop him from putting 3 Mathmechs in grave. But again, wishful thinking, he had the Claw by the grave, so it sucks to suck. It looks like we're going to be going through the full Mathmech shenanigans here. They're going to trigger off the Labrynth to summon out the Diameter, but they're going to sign up mining. They discard the Ignister field spell. They're playing at Ignisters. So they're going to bring out the Achichi here. Achichi searching their deck for Doyon. And then they're going to link one off into the Dark Infant at Ignister. The Dark Infant at Ignister then adding from their deck to their hand the Ignister AI land. Ignister Island is going to be activated. They're not going to use it just yet. They're going to link 2 off into the Cyber's Wicked. Then they're going to use its effect to special summon the Picari out from their hand. Picari's going to search their deck, as is the Cyber's Wicked. Picari's going to grab an AI spell or trap card. And the Cyber's Wicked is going to grab them a Tuner Cyber's monster, like the Bururu, or whatever its name is, the wind one. We're going to call them by color. They're going to link 2 off in the Splash Mage now. They're going to trigger off their field spell once again, bringing out the green Ignister, sending a card from deck to graveyard. Splash Mage reviving the Picari. Then they're going to synchro summon into Wind Pegasus at Ignister. This guy is absolutely going off. This is a tier 2 deck, by the way. At Ignisters, silently climbing up and slaying the ladder with the new Mathmech support, which is amazing to see. I'm really glad that these guys are doing well. It looks like our opponent simply did not have the resources to extend all the way into the Arrival Cybers, or maybe it's just not even the ideal turn 1 play anymore. Who knows? They're going to end on pretty standard board. We didn't have an awful lot to do here. We knew they were going to Super Factorial during the end phase. When we go Call by the Grave, we banish the Circular. I know it's standard to banish the Diameter, but the only reason you would banish the Diameter is to stop them from getting a negate on the Labrynth. And we don't care. We're not activating anything for the rest of this turn, so they can have their negate. I just don't want them to be able to use Circular again next turn. So that means Circular is out of the picture here for the next 2 turns, which is fantastic. Super Factorial bringing out 2, allowing them to exceed summon, except it doesn't because they only run the 1 Labrynth, which is amazing for us, which means they get no resources or advantage out of that. They're going to normal summon the Doyon here. We're going to chain Torrential Tribute. They're going to pay 1,000 to draw 1 final card off of Heat Soul. We're going to wipe out 5 monsters for the price of 1 back row card, taking them all out. They're going to add the Achichi back to hand here. Now the AI land will allow them to start generating resources again. They're going to activate their Pegasus to target our Trap Trick. Trap Trick, we're being forced to activate it now. We would have been, it's basically a case of use it or lose it. We're going to set the Ace Dragon's Prison to our field. They're going to go for the AI, what was that, Idle Reborn to revive the Picari. Picari then searching their deck for another spell or trap card to go for I Meet You. They're going to go for AI Fighting Spirit. Now, I know I keep on switching between AI and I, it's whatever. We're going to bring back the Doyon to go into Lingeribo. Lingeribo being a bit of a problem because that means that they can negate any of the traps that we activate. They're going to go Doshin, special summoning Doshin out to the field before going into another Splash Mage, doubling up on the Splash, going into Doyon once again, but they're all out of extenders. And again, they've only got 6 cards left in their extra deck. There's only so much they can be doing here. They are going to keep the Lingerebo on field. All we need to do is draw a summonable monster, and we are good to go. And luckily for us, we draw into the Rakia. We're going to normal summon, swing into the Lingerebo. They're going to bring out one of their monsters here, which is a bit of a misplay, because now when we take out the Lingerebo, there's 4 monsters on board. We're going to needle sealing wipe the field. They're going to be able to protect the Donmari, but that's no problem to us because we're going to use the well, Rakia's effect would have gone off to summon another Unchained monster from deck. It is going to get negated by Cult of the Grave, but luckily we also have the Abominable Unchained Soul to still come out here, able to come out, easily mop up the Damari here, the 3k body. It doesn't get its destruction effect, unfortunately, but we still do get the opportunity to take out his monster. He's going to add back the I Meet You spell card from his banish pile. We're going to take out his monster, 700 points of damage, leaving him on exactly 3100, and we still have the Ice Dragon's Prison set on our field. Our opponent only has 6 cards left in their extra deck, and they simply lack the resources to get over our Abominable Unchained Soul. They summon out their double Achichi, and they decide to go out with honor, and there you go. They take themselves out on our Abominable Unchained Soul, and that is game, wiping out yet another top tier deck in the form of Ignister Mathmech, which is really interesting. So it seems like the deck is having most issues against strategies that can protect themselves from destruction or the focus on banishing monsters. Whenever you're against a matchup that doesn't really do those, they tend to struggle to outlast you. They struggle to finish the grind, especially considering the raw power behind a lot of your big trap cards. So yeah, really cool game, really well played from both sides. Our opponent did play well, they tried their best. Maybe wasn't the best showing of the Ignisters, but they just sort of did everything they could and just didn't work out. We just had the out. Let's get into game number 4. Getting into our 4th and final game here, we are going to have once again our Pot of Extravagance, banishing 6 to draw 2, and 2 amazing cards we drew. We're going to open up with Abomination's Prison, grabbing Escape of the Unchained. We're going to normal summon Ariana grabbing Ariane for some follow-up here. We're going to activate our field spell before setting 3 and passing turn. We did have an awful lot of useful cards here to grab. This is a situation in which running the Labrynth Archfiend might actually be a good card as a backup search off of Servant. Just a card to consider, and it's not a big deal. We might take out one of our Silver Castle cards for a Labrynth Archfiend, but that's something to consider down the line. For now, we're not playing it, so for now we're going to have to play around Branded Despia, which is going to be it's going to be an uphill battle. So because they've got this branded opening engrave, our job gets a hell of a lot harder, because now we cannot simply pop his cards, right? We need to try even harder to out our opponent's advantage. They're going to go into their branded fusion, summoning an Albion the Branded Dragon by sending Scythe to graveyard. They're obviously planning some sort of shenanigans. We're going to quickly activate Cult of the Grave and chain to the Albion's effect to banish Albaz from the graveyard. Now he's forced to go into a fusion monster that does not include the Fallen of Albaz, as long as he doesn't have another one in hand, but he does not. He instead opts to fuse 2 into Masquerade the Blazing Dragon. Now he's going to activate Polymerization, fusing 2 monsters to summon out another Masquerade the Blazing Dragon. So now, anytime we activate a card effect, we're being forced to take 1200 points of damage, which is hugely detrimental. We're going to summon out Lovely Labrynth of the Silver Castle here. We're going to attempt to pop Masquerade, but it is protected by the branded opening. That's what makes this so difficult. Now we don't get the additional pop or additional advantage off of our other Labyrinths. So yeah, really bad turn there for us, but there's only so much you can do. And again, we're just going to pass back to us now. So we draw into Trap Trick, which is a really good card. The Unchained Soul of Disaster is like it's a hard brick in your opening hand, which is why we ended up cutting it. We really don't like seeing this card in hand. It's not good. Technically, it can be summoned off of the field spell, but again, it's not something you want to be reliant upon. They're going to activate a second branded opening. The whole summoning a Despia thing is okay, but the fact that it can protect the fusion monsters from destruction in the graveyard is the biggest problem. They're going to activate branded in red here, summoning out the Guardian Chimera. Guardian Chimera then being able to destroy 2 of our monsters, while his Mercurier and his Despian Tragedy that he used as material are both going to search his deck for additional cards. So he's going to draw 1 and search 2. He's getting +3 into his hand while wiping out 2 of our cards. And people tell me this deck isn't top tier anymore. This deck is absolutely busted still. They're going to wipe out 2 of our cards, passing into main phase 2, summoning out Ariane. Ariane then sending Escape of the Unchained to the graveyard to summon out Sarama. We are paying the taxman here in terms of activating our effects, but we don't really have a choice here. Sarama grabbing Escape, destroying Escape, so Escape can summon out the Abominable Unchained Soul directly from our deck, discarding a card to attempt popping the Chimera just to get rid of the final branded opening. Finally, all of his protection is gone and we might actually stand a chance, but our life points are looking awfully low. The Unchained Soul of Rage is going to be the key to winning this. We really need to hit him right at the correct time. He's going to summon out Alaba the Jester of Despia. There is simply too much advantage on this man's board. He's grabbing 2 more cards from his back to his hand. He's grabbing Branded Fusion as well as another branded spell and trap card off of Alaba, another branded Lost. Branded Lost then is going to be able to protect the activation of all of his effects. Masquerade then inflicting 600 points of damage. We decide if we don't act now, we're not going to get the chance to act at all. We're going to link off into the Unchained Soul of Anguish. Again, we're just sort of praying and hoping at this point. We're going to summon out Ariane here. Ariane's going to search our deck for a card. We're just trying to set up a wall so we can hopefully survive this turn. Our plan was activate the Welcome Labrynth so we weren't going to be limited in using our Trap Trick later in the turn. We're going to rely upon using Needle Sealing to try and turn this around and get some sort of advantage, but we needed to make sure Ariane had been used first to generate some sort of follow-up. He goes into the battle phase, which is amazing, because now we can Needle Sealing, wipe the board clean, activating our Unchained effects in graveyard. Anguish is going to add back to our hand our Abominable Unchained Soul, and then Sarama is going to summon out from deck our Rakia. He goes into main phase 2, and of course he still has so much in terms of resources. He brings out Lubellion. Lubellion gets to discard a card to fusion summon his Branded Lost, gets to search him another card. It is absolutely insane. This deck is busted, honestly, if for no reason other than the amount of resources it generates, right? Branded Despia, it's just very, very difficult to keep up with. They're going to go Mirror Jade. Mirror Jade sending a card to attempt banishing a card. We're going to try and destroy our own Rakia, but we do get negated by the Mercurier. We were hoping to do that so we could summon out the Abominable Unchained Soul directly from our hand after the destruction of our own Rakia, but it getting banished puts basically an end to that little idea. They're going to fuse 2 monsters together into Masquerade the Blazing Dragon once again, Ad libitum being one of the materials, so the Mirror Jade makes its way back out to the field. Absolutely nutty. Albion then able to set Branded in red to their field from their deck, so they're able to go into another Chimera so long as they're playing it, and most of them do play it. We're going to activate Labrynth. We know that there's 0 hope of winning this. We set the Imperm, and I'm pretty sure we either just scoop it up or he goes straight to battle. Yeah, we go straight to battle phase, 25 to the face, and that's GG's. So Branded, you can see why Branded is another tough matchup, right? Branded opening, being able to protect their fusions from the graveyard is a massive obstacle. And then Mirror Jade and the likes of that, not only being able to generate so much advantage with the Chimera drawing, Tragedy searching, Lost searching, Mercurier searching, Alaba searching, and then the Branded in red being able to fuse using a monster from your graveyard. It's simply insane the amount of resources they generate, so trying to play a control deck against them usually doesn't work out, right? Because they will simply outgas your control in most cases, and that's with most control decks, right? In general, Branded will beat most control decks unless they're playing Floodgates. And we don't want to play Floodgates. Floodgates are boring. You could play Floodgates, you could play Gozen, you could play Rivalry if you really wanted to, but we're not degenerates, we're not doing that. But yeah, that's it for this matchup. Let's get into the deck profile. Alrighty, now let me open this up by first saying that this is strictly going to be a deck for fun, right? This is a strong deck that can definitely be used in ranked and will get you wins. However, do not expect to pick this up and win every single game, right? We were on it was like a 50-50 sort of win rate, which, you know, isn't top tier by any means, right? But it's more than enough to call the deck competitive, and I feel like it does fit a sort of fine niche for control in the meta for people who don't want to play Floodgates. You can, in this deck, play Floodgates if you really want to. You can play Rivalry of Warlords. All of your monsters you're going to be summoning are fiends. You can't really play Gozen because your Unchained monsters are different attributes. Your 2 twins here. But to be honest, you could almost forego the twins for just Sarama. But no, 100%. The way the deck works, generally speaking, you're basically trying to pop the whole field with some of your massive trap cards. You're trying to limit your opponent's plays as much as you can, and over the space of a number of turns, wear them down and eventually win. And there's quite a number of different ways you can do that. You have your Unchained cards first. We're going to talk about Unchained first. We're playing one of each of the small twins. We're playing one Abominable Unchained Soul. We're playing 3 of the Searching Field spell. The Searching Spell card, and then 2 of each of the traps. Now, what do they all actually do? The main effect of each of the twins, of these 2, is when destroyed, all 3 of them, when destroyed, will summon out another Unchained monster from deck, right? Same with the trap cards. When the trap cards are destroyed while set, will summon another Unchained monster from your deck. And the Abominable Unchained Soul is the only one that's different. So all 3 of these and all 4 of these all will basically summon out an Unchained monster from your deck when destroyed. They all, of course, have their own individual effects. So, for example, our Hrua will be able to target while it's in your hand, you target a card in your field, destroy it, and special summon this from your hand, which is a decent way to extend because you can destroy even face down spells and traps. So that's pretty good. It's excellent in combination with, of course, your Unchained trap cards, because you can pop them while they're face down, summon this, and summon another Unchained monster from deck, primarily your Unchained Soul or your Sarama. Rakia has a bit of a different effect. While this card is face up on the field, you can target a card on your field and destroy it, which means that if you draw this and one of your trap cards, generally speaking, you'll normal summon this and then pop one of your spells or traps with it. Or what you can do in most instances is instead special summon this card off of the effect of one of your other Labrynths during your opponent's turn, and then use this as almost like a quick play Abominable Unchained Soul, which we'll get to in a second. So there's quite a lot of uses for this particular effect. I feel like she's a little bit better than the Fire Twin in this format, in this deck, but both of them are purely Hero 1 to be summoned off of your Unchained cards. Their individual effects don't matter that much. The one that does matter, however, is Sarama. Sarama will, while it's on the field, allow you to target an Unchained card in your graveyard, set it to your field, and then you get to destroy a card on your field. So what you'll normally do is Sarama will target one of your Unchained cards in your graveyard, one of your trap cards, or one of your 2 twins, will set it, and then will destroy the card that you just set. So you'll set the trap card, you'll destroy the trap card, you'll set the monster, you'll destroy the monster. And what you're doing that for is so you can trigger the second effect of the card to special summon an Unchained monster directly from your deck. So it basically just allows you to summon a monster from deck. It's a very convoluted way of saying you can special summon an Unchained monster from deck. And why are we only playing one of each of these? Surely that's not very consistent. Well, the thing that makes it consistent is Ariane, the Labrynth Servant. Ariane, the Labrynth Servant, allows you to send from your hand or set on your field a normal trap card to special summon a level 4 lower fiend directly from your deck. So one of the weaknesses of Unchained is that in a lot of duels, you're going to see the trap when you don't see the monsters, right? Or you're going to see the monster, but you don't see the traps. And with the core deck, there's no middle ground. You need to have both, not one or the other. Ariane with the Labrynth engine fixes that, because this gives you direct access to your Unchained cards directly from your deck. And if you happen to either have one of these cards already in your hand, on your field, or in your graveyard, you can then special summon Sarama directly from your deck to then pop these cards, summon out your Abominable Unchained Soul, and you do your full combo from there. So Ariane plus any of your Unchained trap cards, or even if they're already on your field or in your graveyard, is essentially the full Unchained combo, even with just one of each twin and one soul. That's why we're playing it the way we're playing it. Then we have Ariana, the Labrynth Servant, which when summoned will add a Labrynth card from deck to hand, basically just an extra search. And the 2 of these share an additional effect where if a monster leaves the field by the effect of a normal trap card, you get to draw a card and then either special summon a fiend from your hand or set a spell or trap card. So they both have that effect, which is pretty nice. You're going to utilize that on your opponent's turn to get special summoning your Abominable Unchained Soul or one of your Unchained twins to get you access to your Unchained Soul directly from your deck. My nose is really itchy. So yeah, that little special summon effect is definitely very useful, especially in this version of the deck, because it gets you access to this guy. He's next on our list, and the reason you want to be special summoning him is because when he's special summoned, you get to discard a card to pop a card. That's pretty good. He's on a 3k body, level 8, so he's pretty decent in terms of helping your aggression, and with a control deck, you need every big monster you can get your hands on, so he's easily summoned, he pops a card on summon, and at the end of any turn in which he was destroyed and sent to the graveyard, he then resummons himself, so he comes back every end phase, which is absolutely nutty. The only thing is, he can only be special summoned once per turn, and if he resummons himself during the end phase and then he gets destroyed, he instead then places himself back on the bottom of the deck instead of going to the graveyard. So basically per copy you get to use the revival effect once, and then you need to summon him from deck again, but that's very easy. So I know that was a bit of a jumble of words, but in summary, easy summon, pops a card on summon, and recurs himself. Pretty busted. You also need him for his name, which we will get to when it comes to the extra deck. Then we've got the lovely Labrynth of the Silver Castle. This card, so long as this card is face up, your opponent can activate monster effects in response to your normal trap cards. Once per turn, you get to set a normal trap from your graveyard back to your field, and if another monster leaves the field because of the effect of one of your normal traps, you can either pop a card your opponent controls or a random card in their hand. Really good at sort of whittling down your opponent's resources. It's on a big body. Generally speaking, an amazing card. In this version of it, I found that we sometimes didn't have very good search targets for Ariana. We didn't always have the best recursion or protection. What I would maybe do is cut this down to 1 and include a copy of the Labrynth Archfiend in its place, as well as potentially a card for protection, like for Welcome Labrynth. I feel like that would also be fine. It gives you a good extra search off of Ariana, and it gives you some extra protection, some extra extension and resources, which is sometimes just as valuable as the lovely Labrynth, especially for follow-up. But again, that is up to you guys. I'm just showing you the deck, how I played it. We got the triple pot of extravagance, because of course we do. Who doesn't like more cards? It does put your extra deck in a weird spot where you probably then want to play more copies of your actual good extra deck monsters. You're only ever going to be summoning fiends from your extra deck, so you probably want to play it something closer to this. But we'll get to that in a minute. Pot of Extravagance, banish 6 from your extra deck, and draw 2 cards. Nuts. You really do need the draw power. Abomination's Prison, grab any Unchained card from deck to hand, pretty straightforward. We've got the Labrynth. Whenever you activate a Welcome Labrynth normal trap, you can destroy a card in the field. If you activate a non-Labrynth normal trap card, special summon a fiend from your hand or graveyard. Excellent ways of recycling your Abominable Unchained Soul, ways of reviving your lovely Labrynth, your other Unchained monsters, whatever. Excellent ways for recycling your powerful monsters. Cult by the Grave for Cult by the Grave reasons. Negate hand traps, negate Ash, negate... well, really, you're just negating Ash, right? It also helps against Mathmechs. So yeah, Cult by the Grave is mandatory in this current format. You've got... And then we're getting into your normal traps, right? So from here on out, it's pretty much up to you, right? But here's the ratios we're playing. We're playing 2 Torrential and 2 Needle Sealing. Both of them sort of do the same thing. They wipe out all the monsters on the field. Torrential Tribute does so in response to a summon. Needle Sealing can do so whenever you want, so long as there are 4 or more monsters, which is absolutely amazing, especially considering your Unchained cards will either special summon a new Unchained or recur themselves whenever they're destroyed by card effects, so that's very useful. We've got the Dimensional Barrier, which is one of the newer cards we've added. This is specifically here because we were struggling a lot with Sword Soul and Despia. This will basically lock your opponent out of an extra deck summoning mechanic, barring links, for the duration of the turn in which it was used. It can also stop Pendulum and Ritual Summoning as well, which is a little bit more niche. But basically it locks your opponent out of a summoning mechanic for an entire turn, and it is relatively easy to search for. So I think it is going to definitely patch up a big weakness that you have to the likes of Sword Soul or Despia. We've got Infinite Permanence because it's a very solid card. Negate a card during your opponent's turn if you have it in hand and control nothing as a good hand trap, or you can set it to your field and use it that way. Trap Trick. Trap Trick allows you to search your deck for any normal trap card simply by banishing another copy of that card from your deck. That's why we're playing 2 copies of everything. Trap Trick will banish 1 and you get to set the other. The only caveat is that for the rest of the turn after you activate this effect, you can only activate one more trap card. So you need to bear that restriction in mind sometimes and order your trap card activations carefully. Then we're running 2 copies of each Unchained trap card. We got Escape of the Unchained and the Abominable Chamber of the Unchained. Escape will basically pop an Unchained monster you control and a card your opponent controls, and the Chamber will revive one of your Unchained monsters or special summon one from hand. Basically hand or graveyard, special summon the field. If either of these cards are destroyed while set, you special summon an Unchained monster from the deck. Ace Dragon's Prison, because it is amazing in this meta. Target a monster in your opponent's graveyard, yoink it to your field, and then you can banish it and a monster your opponent controls so long as they have the same type. Really, really good in a meta filled with Cybers. There are certain matchups where it's not that strong, it's not that great against Branded in particular, but it is good against most other threats on the tier list. It's good against all the Cybers type decks, it's really good against Sword Souls, it's got a lot of potential. And lastly then, welcome Labrynth. Special summon a Labrynth monster from your deck, and it can also reset itself from the graveyard back to the field if a monster leaves the field by the effect of a normal trap. But basically it just special summons a Labrynth monster to your field directly from your deck, like the Silver Castle. If you have your field spell up, it'll also basically gain another effect to pop a card on the field, which will then trigger all of your other Labrynth effects, which are all really good. So yeah, this plus your field spell, really, really powerful. Getting into the extra deck, very, very little of your extra deck matters, right? There's not a lot of cards in here that actually do anything. So we've got Darius, Triple D Stone King Darius is kind of cool. You can battle into a monster, you can detach an Exceed material, and basically this monster doesn't get destroyed. The monster that it battled with gets destroyed, and then you inflict 500 points of damage. So it's just a way of getting rid of a problematic monster. You'll very rarely summon this card. You can probably, to be honest, you can probably even just take that out. The only monster you're ever really going to be summoning is the Unchained Soul of Rage, the Unchained Soul of Anguish, and then on occasion, the Unchained Abomination. But you're not usually even going to climb this far. Normally it's just this guy, to be honest. But we're going to cover them off anyway. Of course, we got Nightmare Cerberus. What you need to remember is all your Labrynth cards, as well as your Unchained Twins and things, will lock you into Fiend. So pack your extra deck filled with Fiends if you can. The Nightmare Cerberus pops a special summon monster. Nightmare Phoenix pops a back row card. Nightmare Unicorn spins a monster back to deck. All very good generic Fiend Link monsters. Then we've got the Unchained Soul of Rage, which can, during your opponent's turn, quick play Link Summon using one of their monsters to go into one of your Dark Attribute Link monsters. So you can use that during your opponent's turn to Link Summon into the Unchained Soul of Anguish or into your Nightmare Unicorn. Or even if they have a Link monster of their own, the Unchained Abomination. Sometimes I'll use my opponent's IP Masquerena to summon out an indestructible Unchained Abomination, which is pretty funny. Doesn't happen very often, but it's pretty funny. So basically it's a quick play Link Summon during your opponent's turn. If it ever gets destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target a Fiend in your graveyard and add it back to your hand, so it's a decent way of recycling some of your cards, and it is any Fiend, so it can even recycle back your Labrynth cards. In a similar boat here, the Unchained Soul of Anguish being a Link 3, during your turn, you can target a monster your opponent controls and Link Summon using this monster and it into a Dark Link monster. That's how you're going to be getting into your Unchained Abomination. You can also run Access Code Talker for this a little bit, but like I said, you're very rarely even going to be climbing this high, and the Unchained Abomination is absolutely dope. So, Anguish Link Summons during your turn, and again, if it's destroyed, recycle a Fiend back to hand. And lastly, we have the quote-unquote boss monster of the deck. So basically, this guy gets to pop 3 cards per turn, which is nuts, right? So he does 1 pop under 3 different conditions. Number 1, if a card in the field is destroyed by a card effect, you can destroy another card. When another monster is destroyed by battle, you can destroy a card. At the end of the turn, you can destroy a card. And you can do all of those once per turn each, which means you get to pop 3 cards, up to 3 cards, every single turn. So this guy, if you're able to keep him on the field for even 1 or 2 turns, you will see your opponent's resources completely vanish underneath this guy. He will just eviscerate your opponent, and it's every single turn he gets to use these effects 3 times, 3 pops every single turn. So this guy is absolutely nuts. You'll not summon him very often though, because you'll either win using your control, your opponent will scoop, or generally speaking you'll have won through some other means by then. But it is an amazing monster to keep in your back pocket, especially considering you can get there using your opponent's monsters. So why wouldn't you? But yeah, that's the deck. Again, not really very much else to talk about, to be perfectly honest. Most of this is up to sort of personal preference and opinion in terms of the trap cards. I really like this lineup. I think this lineup is very, very powerful. I feel like call by is absolutely mandatory. The ratios of monsters, I think, is the one thing that needs work, and I will continue to work on. I feel like this is fine. We don't play very many monsters, but that's because we don't really want to be seeing more than one in our opening hand, to be perfectly honest. We only really want to be seeing this one. We don't even really want to see any of our Unchained twins, right? We don't want to see our twins in our opening hand. They're okay in combination with an Unchained trap card, but if you don't open up both, they're not that good. So we really want to be seeing Ariane or Ariana. Ariana, at the very least, can kick play all of our Labrynth plays. Ideally, we want to see Ariane, which can kick play all of our Unchained plays, but it's just whichever one you get, right? So the monster ratios are the one thing I'm a little bit still on the fence on, but everything else I think is absolutely perfect and amazing, and it's been an absolute blast playing it, right? Anytime you can flip up Needle Ceiling and completely watch your opponent's hopes and dreams die is hilarious. It's amazing. But yeah, that's the full deck. If you got this far into the video and you haven't liked the video or subscribed for whatever reason, then what do you do? You might as well. If you've got this far, obviously you were liking what you were seeing. If you have any questions, hints, tips, tricks, things that you would add or change about the deck, feel free to throw them below, or even you can hop into the Discord and share them with me there. And with that, I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.